Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Hello again, Tackle Traders, and hello again, YouTube. This is Frank coming back to you with the market recap for the 11th of November. When technology turns on you, it is not pretty, but we're back and glad to see you guys again. So coming back, we're going to start from the top. Taking a look at today's market, pretty boring for the most part. A lot of movement in the energy as natural gas continues to run to the bullish side, and crude continues to fall dramatically to the bearish side. So it, kind of carrying on what's been the trend in the energy market for quite some time, no doubt about it. From a broad perspective, stock speaking, fairly lackluster day, as people just kind of taking a little breather, it seems, with things. So here we are on the S&P 500. Again, working our way back down towards that support level. Saw some indecision today, closing on the lower end, but again, very moderate movement overall in our indexes today. I'll continue to monitor that as a support level. It kind of looks, and again, we're kind of projecting here, but potentially we're trying to form a little head and shoulders. Now, it's important that that holds for that to be the case. Of course, we still have some work to do to get through resistance and even to resistance, right? But I'm going to continue to monitor this price point on the S&P. Over in the NASDAQ, a little rockier chart, in my opinion. We've broken through support. Another rough day in NASDAQ. We looked at this a little earlier, but I think it's worth looking at again for those who join us later. We're building that little floor on the intraday. Over on the NASDAQ here, we're looking at the 15-minute chart, so kind of seeing how we've been operating over the last couple of days. We've seen many times these little floors build for the short term and then break and give out. If that ends up being the way that it played out on the NASDAQ, I would expect more downward movement to occur if we do take out that floor. Much like yesterday, kind of bearish in NASDAQ and Russell. That's kind of where I'm looking, primarily bearish, and a little more open, at least a little more bullish on the S&P and the Dow Jones. Dow kind of more so than the S&P right now, because they're not doing as many bad things, right? We're seeing the NASDAQ breaking support. All of a sudden, now we have all these moving averages on top of us. We're breaking support. Now I have to worry about intraday floors being bearish breakdowns, things like that. Similar with the Russell. We never really took things out. It looked more like a regular old bearish retracement. So we haven't taken out challenges, haven't held breakout points like we've seen to at least a little more of an extent with the Dow and the S&P. Now, over on the Russell, we continue to be fairly weak, closing near the lows, kind of rallied early, kind of gave it all back, closing near the lows of the day. Again, right now, it has to, I'm going to continue to look at it with bearish eyes until we ultimately, decide to put in a higher low or hold support and break some resistance. Right now, we continually failed at support, failed to make higher highs, kind of the definition of a downward trend. I'm going to continue to look at the Russell accordingly. Lastly, over in the Dow, as long as we hold this support level, I am kind of looking at this kind of the area more bullish than other areas from a broad perspective. Kind of, again, we've shown the most strength here. We were able to break resistance. I wish we could have held that breakout point, but we had a lot of selling yesterday. Really, if we can put in that higher low, then maybe we can start to see some, a little bit of an upward trend start to develop. I know we're not there yet, but a lot of indecision here today, not near support, kind of somewhere in the middle right now. So let's continue to see how we, if we can start to show some upward momentum, or if we're going to work all the way back down to, or even potentially through support. Looking at our sectors, not a lot of exciting things, like I said earlier, unless you're talking about energy. Materials continue to drift down towards what I at least believe to be its level of support. I'm kind of interested in seeing this right now. It certainly has that bullish retracement vibe to it, but I'm interested in seeing if we're able to put in that higher low as we start to work into this old support level, the rising 20-day moving average, to see if we can establish some momentum. Again, right now, the clearest bull signal I think that we're going to see is a break of 56, taking out this swing high. and this 50-day moving average. Not to say that, new things can't or won't develop between here and there, hypothetically, but that's going to be kind of the bullish signal that I will be, ready to say, okay, I'm open to being bullish. But I've definitely, as we've kind of talked about over the last week or so, kind of got on board with potentially being interested at least in a materials rally if I get the right signals. Haven't got them yet, still on that downward swing. For me, at least, support down here is going to be our first test. We break through that, we're falling through all the moving averages, and well, I'm going to probably change my tune if that's the case. Over in energy, it was rough. We sold a lot, and we closed right at that old support level that we've been kind of keeping an eye on. I'm not surprised that we got there. I don't think any of us here are. It happened fast, though. I never expect things to happen that fast. If we look at a weekly chart, we can kind of see, well, we had our little M formation happen. We broke down. We came back to support. We rallied up, tested that as resistance, and failed. There's still downside if the support breaks, in my opinion, at least from a bearish point of view. Now, as I've said many times before, and we'll say till the end, I'm going to respect this support level. It's been important on many times. I mean, think about just last time we were at the support level. We were in a free fall, right? We get to that support zone and had a nice little rally. Not saying I expect that to happen again, but I do expect support to try to hold. This is, in my opinion, is a pretty important price as we're looking at the energy sector. If this falters, well, I'll definitely be open to more bearish plays if that's the case. No doubt about it. It's not a exciting place. And I can't get on board with buying off of support here. I get it though. If you think about it from a pure risk to reward point of view, obviously we don't have a signal today. I'd never buy anything on a red candle that looks like this, but hypothetically we get a nice little signal tomorrow. Our risk to reward, should, I guess, depending on how much it moved, look appealing, with the stop loss a little bit below. But the problem is I don't even know exactly where to put that stop loss because we kind of don't have a specific number here. I just can't see myself buying off the floor, but I know that's me, and I'm not a huge floor, bounce type of a guy. So I understand other people are. I knew people doing it back here, and I wasn't one of them either. So let's watch this price point. Obviously, we've seen a ton of history there. That clearly is, for whatever reason, an important price point for the energy sector. Over in financials, I actually was able to close in the green, up a little over 0.5%. This pullback is what I was hoping to get. Now, I'm kind of glad we closed, kind of closer towards the bottom, still holding a positive today. I don't think we had the signals just yet from, overall perspective. But again, we kind of were able to take out that breakout point. Really, again, as long as this breakout point holds, I am going to be open, from a bullish point of view within this sector. We just have lots of overhead, and we don't have the signals today or anything like that. But definitely seeing some buyers pop in make me feel like I'm not alone, at least, in thinking about this being one of those areas, from a bullish point of view. If we do get the signal, that definitely held up a little bit better than some of our other areas today. Looking at the industrials, closed, really close to where we were yesterday, right on that old support level that we broke down, a few weeks back. I do think that pretty clear idea that this is support, this is resistance. If this falters, I would expect more downward movement. Right now, I'm not surprised that that area is kind of what's, the support zone. Obviously, that's been important in the past. It tends to be important again in the future. If we start to see some signals, might be interesting. But if we break this support level here, I'm going to really look, because I felt this way last weekend, and overall I still feel this way. This was the cleanest bearish retracement sector that I thought at least we had going into this past weekend. And I still do feel that way. Now, if we show some upward movement, I will change my opinion. Right now, we haven't done anything to change my opinion. I'll continue to monitor this little 2-day floor, see if we get some more downward movement off of that. I would expect there's a little more room for this area to fall if and when that does happen. Looking at our technology, it looks, officially we closed up, 0.12% today, but much like NASDAQ, this is just not a pretty looking chart, in my opinion, closing below that. Not saying it can't rally, but I am saying it's probably going to have to rally without me, if that's what it decides to do. We saw some nice, buying early, but gave it all back, closing back below that breakdown point. To me, if you are trying to trade directionally bullish in this market, right now the tech chart is just too ugly to be trying to, in my opinion. And again, you don't ever have to agree with me, but it's a pretty rocky looking chart for me, at least right now. Staples, interesting, had a little bit of a pullback today, ran right back in towards that 9 EMA, that short-term moving average, at least I like to use, kind of use that as its intraday support level. This continues to be a very strong overall bullish area. You know, nobody needs me to tell them that. You know, we definitely could have used a pullback, and maybe we're still getting it. We haven't seen any buy signals, right? We saw an intraday bounce off the short-term moving average, which I guess for a really aggressive trader might be enough of a buy signal. But, you know, seeing a pullback would not be a bad thing. But, you know, obviously we've been very strong, and there's no signals, at least that I can see, telling me to think that this is the end of that run in staples. Utilities, depending on how you define your breakouts, you could argue that it broke out today. I think it's 55.50 is the number, you know, for me to feel like we did break out of utilities. We've watched this together for months now, you know, desperately trying to push through that area. And as opposed to a number, it's really kind of become a zone. And so for me, I'm not willing to go all out and say that utilities broke out today. We definitely closed above, you know, some things, no doubt about it. But I think, you know, it needs to close 55.50 for me to call it a breakout. But obviously, it's definitely trying. You know, we talked about, you know, I think there's 8 utility companies hit new highs yesterday. So, I mean, things are trying to push through in that sector, no doubt about it. I'm seeing some interesting breakouts over there. So, very interesting day. I remember this day. It wasn't too long ago, right? When, you know, we had that break. We're not even able to really establish any momentum the next day, actually gap down the next day and never really got a shot to carry through on that momentum. Let's see if we can carry through that momentum. We've not been able to see that while it's been trying to break out. You know, usually we don't even see it by the close of the day. We've seen a lot of, you know, shadows or tails or wicks, whatever you like to call them, break above that intraday only to give up before the day was done. Let's see if we can get some momentum. That, of course, is always an important step. Over in healthcare, we did continue to slide back, much like the S&P and the Dow. I continue to look at this as an area that I'm open to bullish trades as long as this holds down here. I do expect, and again, this is just my personal expectation, that we're going to try to put in a higher low before we get there. That's what I'm watching. That's what I'd like to see, at least, to see if I can get you know, the trend to kind of reverse. But really, I think the cleanest signal is going to still be the break as of right now at $94. Now, if we can get some good buy signals down in here and have some room before 94, could be very interested in that. Obviously, we haven't got those buy signals today, but, you know, we may very well get them tomorrow or the next day, right? So again, we may not, but I always like to be thinking ahead and always want to be aware of what I want. It doesn't hurt to ask, right? Over in the discretionary, pretty flat day. Not a lot has changed. It looks a lot like the Dow Jones, right, where we were able to take out that previous swing, run up a little bit. Now we're kind of pulling back, still above that old support level. As long as that holds, again, this is, you know, one of those areas that, you know, I'm not alone here, but, you know, I can only speak for myself 100%, that, you know, the Christmas rally areas, right? And so if I can get some buy signals here, I'd be definitely open to it. Obviously, the support does need to hold. I mean, we see this in a lot of things that we're looking at. We talked about it yesterday. If these support levels give out, then all of a sudden, anything that a bull might be hanging their hat on is taken away from them, right? Now, that hasn't happened. You know, it may not happen, but, you know, always keep that in mind. So, you know, again, we do have some overhead in the 50-day moving average around 112 that we definitely want to keep an eye on if and when we, you know, if we do get a rally. Obviously, we're not there just yet, though. Over in real estate, a little back and forth, but closed officially up on the days. It just kind of continues to drift to the upside, you know, certainly showing some nice strength. Overall, we know we've got a pretty sizable amount of overhead resistance around $34. For me, I'd like to see it pull back and retest this old breakout point. That's what I would like to see. I'm not in it, so if I was in it, I wouldn't like to see that. But that's kind of, you know, we just kind of continuing to push to the upside, a little on the extended side of things, maybe, but certainly showing some pretty good strength. I wouldn't want to bet against it right now. I just would like to see it pull back a little bit. And lastly, over in our communication services, continue to be just really some of the ugliest things out there, right? So, you know, these are one of those areas that just never was able to do anything right. You know, wasn't able to break resistance. Sure, a lot of things broke resistance and then gave it back, but at least they broke it, right? These guys weren't even able to do that. Failed at resistance, broke support, showing more downward movement. To me, at least, this is a, very, either you're bearish or you're nothing type of a chart. Certainly not maybe to the extent of crude, but really the same as crude, where we've seen no buy signals. Everything is on the bearish side of things, at least as of right now, in my opinion. I continue to look at it that way. So, again, we saw a kind of continuation in some areas, but really other than our energy sector, didn't say anything too crazy or interesting, I don't think, today. Gold, trying to figure out what it wants to do with itself. I think right now you just want to be, as a directional trader at least, you're looking at it and kind of figure what it wants to do. This is my line in the sand. I expect this level of old support and old resistance to act as resistance. If we work into that, I would expect a struggle. Really, there's not any real support where we're at right now, any real support. So our support level is still a ways away. Right now, for me at least, that breakout failed. I'm not ready to go bearish because the support was just so strong back in the early fall. And I don't want to bet against that, but that failed breakout, obviously, that's not a bullish signal, right? So not a lot changed from yesterday, though. Your opinion probably hasn't changed. Technically, we look about the same. Silver's kind of weird because it has more of a break, other than this cleaner break, I guess, other than this actual low point right here. But it's right at that nice round $14 mark, and I think makes sense. From just a pure number point of view, hey, let's buy it at 14, right? That's not necessarily how we do things, but we're not everybody. It continues to kind of fight. I really don't like the way this chart looks. Once I'm sold that it's clearly given up 14, I will be bearish on silver. Just not quite sold there yet, personally. But we're kind of hanging by a thread. If it's going to try to get people back on board, it's got to get on the right side of this breakdown. And the longer it isn't, the harder I see it being for it to do so. So not a lot changed really in our metals market. Just kind of took the day off, so to speak. We did see some selling in the dollar, closing, getting pretty heavy, to the downside. But most importantly, holding the breakout point at around $97. That, of course, is going to be a potential spot where where buyers are going to look to come back in. They've seen it be resistance. They've seen it be a breakout point. So that will be a price point that I think we should definitely be keeping an eye on going into the second part of the week here. But certainly the breakout still holds. As long as the breakout holds, then I'm going to continue to look at it overall through bullish eyes. And of course, to the fun stuff now, natural gas just continues to skyrocket. That's why when they say the trend is your friend, it's for situations like this. This doesn't always happen, but it really does illustrate the point that when something gets into an upward trend, it tends to be an upward trend for a while. Yes, natural gas has just been flying up the charts, right? Most trends don't move this fast, but most trends do move, right? Continue to show great strength, much like it's been for a while. It's overextended from a pure technical point of view, but nobody seems to care about that. If you're not in it, again, you're either looking at intraday breaks to kind of get you in, or you're looking for a pullback opportunity that just has yet to materialize, but it will. Maybe it won't be till $5 with the way it's moving. I don't know, but definitely has some room to continue to go up. We looked at it on that weekly chart. I think it was last week, looking at it. But I mean, there's really, we have some room to go. At around 450 is probably the next real level of resistance, major level, at least in my mind. So there's still room for this to go. And well, hey, like I said before, I don't want to bet against this thing. You don't have to buy it, but I don't think you bet against it. And as great as it's been on natural gas, it's been equally and maybe even more impressively awful for the crude market. Of course, we've been laughing together as we've watched it take out support level after support level after support level. And why should today be any different? Just because it was a longer term trend line that we were going to test here today, why should that be any different, right? We really just broke through and sold and just sold. We did kind of close around that 55. As we look at this weekly time frame, that's kind of that next level. Don't make me have to draw more lines on you tomorrow, natural crude. I'm not going to bet against that not happening, though. I mean, what do we need to say? I mean, this is bearish. The momentum is, tremendously to the downside. Yes, it is very extended. Yes, everybody knows that and can see that. But that's been the case for a while. Someone might buy it off of that 55. That someone isn't me. I know that. So very bearish activity continues to just be there. I mean, I'd love to see some bullish movements, run into some resistance and give us a retracement opportunity. Hopefully, eventually we get that. But today, well, that's not where we're at today. It basically broke that trend line and fell all the way back down to the next level of support. We've been seeing that time and time again, where it breaks one level and quickly works to the next. So I don't want to try to pick the bottom on crude. I mean, geez, it's got to at least try to have one day in the green, right, before we can think about stuff like that. So pretty nasty over there. So that, ladies and gentlemen, will do our market recap today. But certainly, as always, it is my pleasure, and I do appreciate everybody's time. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to be alerted of any new videos that we're doing over here. And be sure to follow us over at Tackle Trading on Twitter to keep up with some of the things that we're following during the market day. If you enjoyed the market recap, it's always helpful and appreciated if you give us a thumbs up to let us know that we're on the right track. Hey, good to see you, Christian. I had some technical issues, but being the tech genius that I am, I fixed them. So no, far from tech genius. I can turn the computer on though, and I can open up software. So that's the important thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, get out of here. Thank you so much for your time. Happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.